everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm really excited because I'm going to be talking about some of my top fantasy book recs for the fall time. Really, I recommend these like at all times, but I especially think a lot of these will be perfect to read in the fall and like the upcoming winter months just because of how cozy they are. Some of them do take place in fall or like kind of have spooky vibes, but overall a lot of these just make me feel cozy and make me feel warm and happy when I read them, and that's how I want to be feeling when it's fall, so I hope that you can get the same feeling from them as well. Fantasy is definitely my favorite genre, so I have a lot on this list and in no particular order. Let's begin! So this wouldn't be a video on my channel if I did not begin by recommending my favorite book of all time, which is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. This duology is my favorite duology I've ever read. Nothing has topped it for me so far. I am in love with the world, I'm in love with the characters, and I still can't believe how like underrated this book is. Truly, it blows my mind that really not many people have read this. But this follows the main character Laszlo Strange, who is an orphan. He works in a library, but there's always been this legend and kind of this myth of this forgotten city who had been taken over, and it's kind of just a big mystery to everybody. No one really knows what happened, and the city forgot its name, so it's called Weep. And so one day Laszlo gets a chance to join a troupe of warriors and other like craftsmen and kind of like handymen and whatnot to travel to this city and try and figure out how to save it. They're trying to harvest this material and they discover a lot of things there, and it's just such a wonderful story. The world is so beautiful, the character relationships, I just love it so much, and I truly wish more people would read this series because it is fantastic. And I think this will be good for the fall because it's a different type of fantasy. Like, it doesn't really give fall vibes overall, but it's just so whimsical, it's so magical, and I just think this book can really fit any season, but I do think it's perfect for fall. So moving on to one that genuinely is perfect for fall in terms of vibes and title and everything is Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. Obviously, if you can't tell from the cover and the title, this one is very spooky. It involves witches and princes of hell, and the main character Amelia is basically trying to solve her sister's murder with the help of one of the princes of hell named Wrath. And so there's a lot of like scary things that go on. There's also a heavy component of food in this book because Amelia, her family is Italian, so there's lots of food descriptions, and really it just made me hungry, but it added to like the cozy feeling, even though like the plot events weren't really cozy, that aspect was. And this is book one in a series. I know there's a lot more books coming out in this world. This one wasn't like my absolute favorite, but I do plan to continue to this series at some point, and I do think it is a great fall recommendation. So next is one that I feel like is kind of popular, but I also don't see it like too much, but it's Fear the Flames by Olivia Rose Darling. This is book one in a fantasy romance series. The second book just came out a couple months ago from now, October, I believe. But yeah, I love this book. It was so fun. It wasn't like my all-time favorite fantasy. It's definitely more chill on the world building and kind of like the political intrigue and lore, at least in book one. I'm not sure about book two yet. I have not read that, but you have a great found family aspect. There are dragons, and the main character Eowyn is a princess turned queen who has to team up with an enemy kingdom's general to take back her kingdom, basically, and she meets people along the way. She's also really into like baking and pastries and stuff, and it's just again very cozy despite like the intense plot events. It just screams like immersive fantasy story. There's a beautiful map here that I just feel like is very self-explanatory, like that is just the perfect world to like delve into. So another book I read recently that I kind of wish I read in the fall and winter time is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. I read this throughout like the entire summer. It took me quite a long time, but I loved it. It was so good. This follows Professor from Cambridge, Emily Wilde, as she embarks to this like kind of Arctic-ish country to investigate and do more research on the fairies that live there because she's making an encyclopedia of fairies. But while she's there, she finds out that the village has really been affected by these fairies, so she has to team up with her associate professor slash, they kind of have a flirty relationship sometimes, Wendell Bamblebee, who Emily suspects is actually one of the Fae. And so they team up and they try and figure out what's going on with this village, and they uncover a lot of secrets, and it's just a lot of fun. It is very cozy and it reads different than a lot of fantasy books I've read. The stakes are lower, but a lot of intense things happen as well. It's just not super like fast-paced and dramatic, so it reads a bit differently than a normal fantasy book. But overall the vibes are perfect for fall, perfect for winter. There's a lot of like snow in this book, so I think it would be a good like transition book for the season. And so this is book 1 in the series. I definitely want to continue the next book soon, but I just love this series. I can't say enough good things about it. Probably my top fantasy fall book rec for this video and just of all time is one that I feel like most people would agree with if they're recommending a book to you. It's One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This is the first book in the Shepherd King duology, and it's like a gothic fantasy. There's a little bit of romance and just the spooky vibes. Everything about this book is perfect in my opinion. There's a lot of mist, and it takes place in this kingdom called Blunder, who has kind of been plagued by not really a war, but I would call it more of like an ongoing battle in the background of things between this god of these woods and the royal family. Every family is named after a tree, which is super duper cool. But the magic system in this book is so unique. It's kind of like magical cards, and the main character Elspeth Spindle, which is a mouthful by the way, goes on this kind of journey with some people she meets to find these cards and to figure out the secrets of the god of this woods and then about the royal family. And it's just such an intricate story, and I have not read book 2 yet. I'm really dying to, but the vibes overall, like if you don't read any of these other books in the fall, definitely read this one. Like make this one your priority. I promise you it will not disappoint. So I have a couple more books that are like loosely fantasy. Like I technically could classify them in a different genre as well, but overall the fantastical elements and kind of like the world and the magic of these books, I still count them as like fantasy books, so take with that what you will. So the first one is The Invocations by Crystal Sutherland. This is a YA book, but it involves witches, so it's not necessarily in like an alternate fantasy world. It's very like modern, takes place in real life, but these 3 girls have to team up and figure out what's going on because they are witches or they're associated with witchcraft, and they're trying to figuring out why these other witches keep getting murdered. So there's a really nice found family aspect between the 3 main characters. They're all so different, but they're also unique and like individually intriguing, but then when they come together it's like even more like I'm obsessed with them. They're so much fun, and this one has a lot of, from what I remember, kind of more gory things. Like it's not super explicit, but a lot of like the body horror from one of the characters I remember being like super creepy, and I just really love this book. I definitely want to reread it sometime because I really enjoyed it. It's also like pretty easy to read. Like it's a standalone, so I feel like you can read it pretty quickly. I feel like it'd be good for like a fall 24-hour readathon or something like that, so I definitely recommend this one as well. And then we have one that is also loosely fantasy, but it definitely reads more of like a typical YA book, which is not a bad thing, but I feel like you have to kind of be in the mood for a book like that. At least I do now. It's Gwen and Art Are Not in Love by Lex Croucher, and I'm just gonna read the summary on the back because I feel like it's the best way to explain the synopsis to you without fully giving it away. But overall it's like medieval fantasy vibes, but like with teenage characters, so it's a lot easier to read than like a typical like high medieval fantasy. But it says, it's been hundreds of years since King Arthur's reign. His descendant, Arthur, a future lord, has been betrothed to Gwendolen, the quick-witted princess of England, since birth, and the only thing they can agree on is that they despise each other. When Gwen discovers Arthur kissing a boy and Arthur learns of Gwen's crush on the kingdom's only lady knight, the two make a reluctant pact to help each other, but are they brave enough to change the course of history? It's very like cozy, and again you kind of have a found family aspect, but this book made me laugh so much. It was just a really fun time, and like definitely more vibes than plot. I couldn't tell you like what the overall plot of this kingdom is. I know they were in like some type of battle maybe, but the main plot is definitely around these characters and you learn a lot about them, and honestly it's just fun to follow their journey. So this one is also a bit different. I definitely wouldn't classify it as like a regular fantasy. It's more of a dystopian book to be honest, but it is also YA, but it's Soul Match by Rebecca Danzenbaker. I read this as an ARC earlier this summer and I bought myself the finished copy. Number one, because it's beautiful, but number two, because I loved this book. It took me back to like middle school and like early high school when I was super into YA books, and I would just get so connected and obsessed with the characters because that's what happened while I read this book. Like I could not put it down. I was just so connected to the main character Siobhan and to like the people she met. Oh my gosh, I just loved it. But same thing for the past book. I'm going to read the summary of this because it does a way better job of explaining than I will, but it says, 200 years after World War III, the world is at peace, all thanks to the soul identification system. Every 18-year-old must report to the government to learn about their past lives, a terrifying process known as curling. Good souls leave the institute with their inheritance, a career path, and if they're lucky, a soulmate. Bad souls leave in handcuffs. It's a nerve-wracking ordeal for Siobhan, who, given her uncanny ability to win every chess match, already suspects her soul isn't normal. Turns out she was right to worry. Siobhan's results stun not only her but also the entire world, making her the object of public scrutiny and anonymous threats. Saddled with an infuriating and off-limits bodyguard, Siobhan is thrust into a high-stakes game where souls are pawns and rules don't exist. As deaths mount, Siobhan must decipher friend from foe while protecting her heart against impossible odds. One wrong move could destroy the future lives of everyone Siobhan loves, and she can't let that happen, even if they'll never love her back. So yeah, this concept overall is nothing like I've ever read before. I feel like the author did such a good job creating this world and making it seem like very adjacent to us, although it's still incredibly different. The dystopian aspects were really nice. However, I will say it is a YA book, so we don't fully go into like the commentary about those as much as I would have liked. I feel like I would love this even more if it was adult, but still, it still stands strong as a YA book. It takes me back to like feeling like a silly teenager again, so if you're craving that, I definitely recommend Soul Match. And so the last couple of books I have on this list are ones that I feel like have been recommended time and time again and hit or miss for most people. I feel like this series is either very well loved or like despised. I don't see a lot of people who are in the middle about this series, which is a shame because it's a personal favorite of mine, and it's probably like, besides One Dark Window or whatever, it's my top fall recommendation. It is just the most perfect fantasy with fairies, and it's just so good. None other than the Folk of the Air series by Holly Black, with The Cruel Prince, The Wicked King, and The Queen of Nothing. If you haven't read these yet, I truly recommend them, and I think that Book Talk and Book Social Media did this series a disservice by calling it a romance and like an enemies to lovers romance, because it's there. It's there, but it's slow and it's like not the main event. Like, we are in the politics of this world. There are battles, there are wars. Overall, like, the lore of the fairies and just how this story is written is beautiful. And it's perfect for fall. It's just so immensely cozy despite being so like political heavy, you know? But just the way Holly Black writes fairies just does something for me. Like, I don't know what it is, but I love it every single time, and I hope she writes more in this world because I love it. Yeah, I definitely recommend this series as a whole. Each book was fantastic to me, but there's also one by her that I don't see a lot of people talk of, and it deserves more hype in my opinion because it's just as good as the Folk of the Air series, and it's also kind of adjacent to that story. So it's The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black. This is a standalone that takes place kind of in the same world. It's not as like solely in Elfheim as that series is, but we do get kind of glimpses of it. It's been a while since I've read this book, but I still remember details about this to this day. So it says, in the woods is a glass coffin, and in it sleeps a boy with horns on his head and ears as pointed as knives. Hazel and her brother Ben live in Fairfold, where humans and the folk exist side by side. Since they were children, Hazel and Ben have been telling each other stories about the boy in the glass coffin, that he is a prince and they are valiant knights. But as Hazel grows up, she puts aside those stories. Hazel knows the horned boy will never wake until one day he does. But yeah, I just think Holly Black does such a good job of like towing the line between a human world and a fairy world so much. In The Folk of the Air, we get a lot more of the fairy world, but this one seemed really balanced between like the mortal realm and then like the fae realm. It was just so good. I would love to reread this sometime, and truly I think this just deserves more love. It's so good, and these characters do make a cameo in The Folk of the Air, so if you want to know more Easter eggs, read this one. So those are all the book recommendations I have for you for the fall time. I hope one of them got your interest. I just think fantasy is one of those genres that you can read at any time of the year, but I just think it hits different in the fall with the atmosphere outside, the cool weather, and just the coziness of it all of the season. I just think it's perfect to sit down with a fantasy book and like immerse yourself in it and just like feel like you're living the story. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a comment on ones that you've heard of before that you've read. I would love to know your thoughts on them, or if there were any that I talked about that you definitely plan to pick up, please let me know. I would love to know. But yeah, as always, let me know your current read. Let me know what's on your TBR. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe and like and comment and all that fun stuff, and I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.